Okay, third time's a charm. This is the screencast-o-matic speech on Fred Rogers, starting now. So, have you ever heard of the TV show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, or even just know who Fred Rogers is? Well then, you might have questions about him, and this is what that speech is for. So, if you're unfamiliar with Fred Rogers, then you might be asking, why is he famous? Well, he is most known for his TV show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and he was also known as being a very kind and helpful person to children. And you might more recently know him from two movies that were released called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and Won't You Be My Neighbor. He also wrote a bunch of songs that might be used in movies and TV shows today, but I'm not too sure. I couldn't find any research on that. And if you're more familiar with Mr. Rogers, you might wonder how he has affected the world. Well, you might not know this, but he saved public television, because the fundings were going to go to the Vietnam War, but Mr. Rogers told everybody about how important public television was to all the children around the world. He also let children know. He also helped children around the world by letting them know that they were safe and that they were loved. He also changed adults' lives too. You might know this from the more recent Fred Rogers movies. And he also helped children learn and grow with the changing world around them. And of course, because of him, there are 3 TV shows and 2 movies. Now, die-hard Fred Rogers fans might wonder what the world would be like without him. And of course, we would be down 3 TV shows and 2 movies. And there would also be a lot of bad people in the world. People who think that no one loves them and no one cares about them. But that's just not true, because there would be no Fred Rogers to tell them otherwise. And we will also have slightly worse TV because of the funding that went to the Vietnam War. And also there would be children out there in the 1980s while the Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood show was around. And those children would think that no one loves them, that they aren't safe, and that it's their fault that a lot of stuff is happening. And frankly, the world would just be sad and boring without the kind soul, Mr. Rogers. And this is why, whenever somebody asks me the question, who is your hero, I always say, Fred Rogers. Alright, I want to give a big shout out to Mrs. Lee for letting me turn this project in real late. Thank you, Mrs. Lee. Alright.